Hello, I'm Philip Hinkle, and we've got another Mercalli V4 SAL Plus advanced tutorial for you today. We're going to dive into another set of functions that can help you do a better job of stabilizing and kind of see what's going on in your footage a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I want to talk about the dashboard, these gauges, these buttons, these things here down the side of the screen. Some of them give you information, some of them have functions, and a lot of times people ask me, what are they for? Well, here's the answer. Let's dive in and see what they're all about. My first clip I've got is some flying I did at a local park. I'm going to go to my settings panel so I can see the different abilities I have to change settings. First thing let's go right down the list. Let's look at the dashboard. If I hit the play button on my file, you can see the dashboard has like an auto level in it, and it's bouncing and moving left and right as the video, here's the raw video, here's the fix, so you can see as the video leans left and right and makes some movement. If I stop my video and turn it off, then you can see my roll balance. This particular slider has now been deactivated, and that particular functionality would not be live within our stabilization process. Obviously, we want that live, so I'm going to turn it back on, and as you can see, the roll balance comes back on. And if I were to click on the chart, then my timeline down here shows the roll balance. And as we talked about in a previous tutorial, you can use the slider to adjust it to your needs. We're not going to do that today because we covered that in another tutorial. Okay, let's go down to the shift. I have another clip here that we're going to work on with that one, and this is a bike ride through town. As you can see, our road was under construction, and it's some very bouncy video. Look at the shift. It's bouncing up and down, left and right. You can see the first number, I believe, is the x-axis. The right number would be the y-axis, and how much it's bouncing up and down on those. As the bike leans left or has a bump left, then it will slide left and right. And as it goes up and down on the y-axis, bouncing, you can see it bouncing up and down that way. Looks kind of like what a shock absorber would be doing if you had one mounted horizontally and vertically. So that's just showing you information. The shift does not activate or turn off anything. As you can see, I can click on it, nothing happens. That's what the shift does. It's more of an informational thing, and you can see how drastic it is working by using that. Next is the tilt. The tilt is kind of cool. It deals with, as you can see here, the zoom, balance, y-axis, and x-axis. It turns those options on and off. We're going to cover the x and y-axis in another advanced tutorial and really dive into how those work. We're not going to cover that here, but I will tell you the tilt option is showing you in a graphic how the correction is being made along the x-axis and the y-axis as it spins around those different axes in the 3D stabilization. That's really all I need to show you on that one because we are going to come back to that on a future tutorial. The next down is the G-force. This one doesn't have a function other than informational only. It's like a gauge on your dashboard. What this one is showing you is how hard the bouncing is, how hard the correction is. As you can see, it spikes yellow and then bumps into the red. Those are some serious G-forces that it's sensing, and as obvious on my video here on the left, that's a pretty bumpy road, so it's registering some serious hits there. Let's stop that video and go to another one. Let's go down to the My Movie, and this particular video is one that someone sent me from their Mobius camera, and as you can see, the G-force is barely registering on that one, just a little bit, because the plane's actually in a fairly smooth bank, and we're using Mercalli to correct more of the jello and some of the CMOS issues than we are to fix the waviness of the video and the jerkiness of the video. But you can see it does register a little bit in there from time to time, but not a whole lot. So let's stop this. The next one down is our suppress. We've sort of talked about this in other tutorials, but let's get back into that again. If I click on the suppress, then you can see it turns to best stabilization here, and our avoid border gets turned off. The avoid border is a way to zoom in and out. It's how you crop your footage to allow Mercalli to zoom without having black around it. If we were to view this video the way it is, let me turn off the compare. You can see at times a black border appears around our video. Even as bad as this video is as far as how much shake and how much you'd think it has to crop to fix, when we click on the view source, it's really not cropped in that much. Selecting the border between the best border, best stabilization, those things, I'm going to cover that one I think in another tutorial for advanced features, because there's a few things I want to show you on that would just kind of get off track for this particular tutorial where we're just showing the dashboard. So let's go ahead and play this some more, and the suppress seems to be pretty good. I'm not bumping into any red there at all. Now if I were to take my avoid border and drag it down a little bit, you can see we get into the red zone, and let's slide it with our cursor. Okay, there's a spot. You can see the number on the suppress is 104. Anytime that number goes over 100, it turns red. That's basically telling you Mercalli needs to zoom in even more than it has automatically created, and it wants you to know that it's tried to zoom in, and it feels that if it zooms in anymore, it may be sacrificing the quality of your video to make it more stable. It wants you to know that it's gone beyond the parameters of what it thinks it should be. So if you take the avoid border and you just drag it until that turns green and gets out of the 100, then it's got some room to play again. And let's go back to the beginning, see if we've got any more. Yes, we do. That's a big one, 122. Let's just drag that till we don't see any more of the red. There we go. And you can see it also slides here. The avoid border and best border slider are tied together. They are the same thing. Okay, our next 3 buttons down are all tied together. These are the ones I really wanted to jump into that are very interesting. You can see if I click the CMOS sensor, it turns all 3 of these buttons off and asks me to analyze my video. These buttons don't have any sliders directly related to them, but what they are tied to is the new repair functions of the rolling shutter compensation, where we're fixing the jello and the wobble and the CMOS issues, and they tell you information. Let's set this to play on a loop, and let's look at what we've got. This first gauge that says CMOS sensor is just showing us how much the correction is being made and how much it's finding of CMOS issues in the video itself. This one down here is where I learned has some very valuable information. You can see on here there's some waves going through there. Well, those are the waves that are referred to in the intensive repair. You can use this to kind of gauge what your setting should be in your intensive repair to get the best optimization and the quickest optimization, because there's no sense doing intensive if you don't need intensive when just a little bit less of an optimization would work. Down here's the vibrations. We got lots of vibrations here. See these little waves? You can actually see them. They're really close together. So I would consider that either a high or an ultra high frequency vibration. Let's stop the playback. Come to our Edit Intensive Repair. And in our drop down, I have selected Remove Ultra High Frequency Vibration and Medium Waves. The waves are medium because they're fairly close together. If they were long waves, they would be much farther apart. They would just sort of roll through here. And that's how you can kind of tell what kind of waves you're seeing. Just so you know, when you first bring a clip into Mercalli, set your in and out points and hit the play. These aren't going to be active until you've done some sort of repair. So what I like to do is go in and just hit the intensive or the vibrations wobble. Just give it something to have processed your CMOS so you can see what the program is seeing that is wrong with your footage. Once you do that, then you'll be able to see this information here. It's very, very helpful, and it gives you a lot of insight into the kind of problems your CMOS sensor was having with this footage. Let's look at another one and see if we can read a little bit more into it. Here is another bike riding video. This one wasn't on the heavy roads, but it does have some rolling shutter issues, as you can see on the left. And you can see here my waves are a little farther apart. They're not as big, and the vibrations aren't near as intense. You can see there's a lot of distance between the actual vibrations. So on this particular clip for my correction, I selected low frequency vibration because these were really far apart, and medium waves. They weren't really big waves, and as you can see up here, view result, I did a pretty good job of stabilizing that video, and that's my final product. The charts down here show you more of what that CMOS issues are and some of the information related to those. You've got your failure rate, level of detail, sensor speed, things like that. You can actually see the correction going on down here in the charts. To activate this chart, you have to turn these features of the dashboard on. Let's look at one more clip. Let's pick that one. This is a clip somebody sent me flying over a school where they work. And you can see the original video and the problems it had and the fixed video. Here, look at this. These are fairly long. I would consider those long waves or really long waves. And the vibrations aren't too terribly bad. You can see we've got some vibration, but it's not super high frequency vibration. So let's take this information and see what our setting is for intensive repair that I selected to fix that. Low frequency vibration, remember down here it's not super high frequency, and extreme long waves. Up here you can see how long those waves, it is between the waves. They're just kind of bulges, almost kind of like the sea on a calm day with just a few ripples in it. Those are the reasons I selected the extreme long waves and low frequency vibration, and as you can see on our finished result, it did a pretty good job of fixing that footage up. So, again, you click these and all of that functionality goes away. You turn them on and you can see down in here the reaction of your CMOS sensor on the video and how it's reacting and what's going on. And this, to me, is a really good way to figure out what you need to set up here in your intensive repair to get the best possible outcome for Mercalli. Now, keep in mind, you may have to experiment a little bit and try some different ones. You may get in the ballpark, but a lot of times your first guess may not be the right guess. You may have to do it a couple of times to get the best possible functionality you can out of it. Once you get the CMOS stuff fixed up, then you can come back and use your pan shot smoothing and roll balance that we talked about in a previous tutorial. And some of the other features here, the dynamic scaling, you can adjust some of these other sliders to make your video even more stable. But these three options will help give you an insight into what kind of CMOS issues you're having in this particular footage so you can get the best optimization out of it. So that's all for today's tutorial. I just wanted to show you what the dashboard does because it's got some really valuable information. A lot of times people don't quite understand what's going on in there, and I wanted to make that really clear for you. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.